Chapter 5 The Search. Pyper, San Diego. I gazed at the Kanelan gates. They were as imposing as they have always been. While staring at it, shivers rapidly took over my entire body. I held Dogen's hand, and he may have felt I was tense. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. We agreed that we should speak in whispers now that we were this close to Kanela. Once inside, it would just be a matter of time before we learned what became of Kino, Mayo, and the rest of the gang if they were here. I guess the sight of Kanela still terrifies me. My first time here was far from good, I said. I took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and braced myself for whatever may happen. "Do you reckon we'll chance upon the Emperor?" "It is probable. But who's to know?" Dogen said. "Everywhere we've gone, there were talks of uprising brewing and tree runners moving about and leaving Sinista. It looks like we're not the only ones able to escape Sinista's deathly confines." "What do you mean?" I asked. "With rebellions and all these unusual things going on, the Emperor would hardly be in one place. He would be visiting provinces to ensure that things were tightly controlled. He will quell any sign of insurgents." He paused. "I'm not exactly sure why there were rumors about the tree runners and why they would leave Sinista. For some reason, the tree runners gave me the creeps. Perhaps it was because one of them wanted to take Kino." I squeezed Dogen's hand to signal him. "We must go now," I said. I figured he nodded because I could see his gooey figure walking ahead of me. I walked faster. "Wait up," I said. When we were about a mile away from the Kanelan gates, memories flooded me as I caught sight of the long queues of people wanting to go inside. Dogen and I walked past them because there was no need for us to fall in line. All we had to do was squeeze through the gate since nobody could see us. I was sweating all over. I wanted to get some rest first, but my emotions were crazy, and I couldn't bring myself to stop. The slightest noise made me turn my head around, only to find that it was just the usual hustle and bustle of the crowd. When somebody spoke behind me, I jumped and let out a yelp, which I was able to control, but I could feel Dogen's hand tightening against mine, warning me to keep quiet. We were nearing the gates now, and the number of soldiers around the streets had doubled. Dogen pulled my hand to stop us. "What is it?" I asked him. "There are war dogs near the gates," he said, obviously worried. "They won't see us," I reckoned. "But they would be able to smell us. We cannot go inside on foot. We have to find another way." So instead of moving towards the gate, we retreated and studied the long queues of citizens. Among the flurry of people, there was a huge cart pulled by several horses. "Do you think we can?" I started. "Exactly what I was thinking," Dogen cut in. "Let's go." It was quite tricky having Dogen with me and having to hold his hand. If I were alone, I could so easily get past these throngs of people and then slip inside the wagon. But with Dogen's gigantic size, getting past the guards posed more challenges. That and Dogen moved a little clumsily, which was quite a surprise because he was so skillful with swords, and I always thought sword fighting was like dancing in a way. I moved forward and managed to get in between citizens. Dogen moved carefully too, but there were times that I would hear an annoyed grunt from behind me. I could only surmise that Dogen had inadvertently bumped into someone. Finally, we reached the wagon. I pushed myself up and scooted inside. There were crates of vegetables, and my eyes rounded when I saw carrots. Dogen pulled himself up, and the wheels squealed, probably because of his weight. I held my breath when the wagon stopped, and a man came to my view. He was peering inside the wagon, scratching his head when nothing suspicious came to his sight. After a while, we started moving again. Dogen and I squeezed behind crates, and when we felt safe, I made ourselves visible. Dogen was already helping himself to a carrot. He was grinning at me. "Such good luck, eh?" he said. I quickly grabbed a carrot and started eating too. "Maybe we should have just risked it with the war dogs," I said in between bites. "No, it's too dangerous." "It's not dangerous, you're strong. If the war dogs get near us, you can fend them off." "With one hand, because my good hand is holding you to keep myself invisible?" "Well," I said. "But you're good. You can easily kill the war dog." "What do you think the soldiers will do if they see the war dogs riding about with nothing touching them but air?" I nodded, realizing what a crazy suggestion I had offered. They'll probably close down the gates and be on a hunt to check what sort of evil was roaming the Kanelan walls, Dogen said. Without knowing that the bigger evil is already inside the Kanelan walls, he laughed. The wagon halted, and I could hear voices outside the carriage. I peered outside and saw that we were already at the gates. The owner of the wagon was talking to the palace guards. One guard nodded and moved to the back of the cart to check the wagon. I quickly grabbed Dogen's hand and turned both of us invisible. My heart was thumping wildly. Moments later, I could hear the wagon flaps being raised, and then I was facing a palace guard. He steered straight past me, towards the crates stacked behind my back. A wag dog sniffed and growled. There, the palace guard said to the war dog. Nothing there. All right, let him pass. I sagged in relief, and Dogen let out a breath. I could feel his grasp on my hand loosening, but he did not let go. Better to remain invisible while we are still in motion. We're inside, Dogen muttered. After this, we'll best be searching for them. I figured I could cover the east side. Maybe you should begin inside the palace. The palace? I yelped. But, was it really necessary for me to start my search there? I thought you said you wanted to rescue your friend immediately. The palace will be the best place to gather information. If I could go invisible like you, I would gladly volunteer to do it myself. My chest froze, but Dogen was right. All right? I don't like it, but I know someone has to do it. Why don't you just join me then? There are other things that I can scope out outside the palace. Like what's happening down in the dungeons. I will try to find out as much as I can in there, to see if there are any new prisoners, to see if there were recent executions. Executions? I butted in. Do you really think that Kino would have been executed if he had been caught? Do you remember how the Emperor caused the chaos more than a moon turn ago? What made you think that he would be so forgiving now? Dogen said simply. He heaved a deep sigh. I pray we're not too late. I peered out of the wagon, watching the road that we passed. The Kanelan courtyard that welcomed us now was far different from the one I visited with Kino and Mayo. The ambience used to be jubilant and festive, but now, even with the number of citizens milling about, it felt somber as though the city had undergone a complete transformation. There was still debris around the streets. Potholes were everywhere, and there were dingy tents erected all around. I gazed at them, scrunching my nose as a wave of pungence entered my nose. What do you reckon were those? I said. Might be for the refugees, Dogen said. But they did not seem to be meant for refugees. No one was moving. The horrible stench grew stronger, and I gasped, covering my nose. Death tents, Dogen said. He was frowning. Remnants of the Akene wine festival. But why haven't they been buried? They were, Dogen said. But there could have been too many. There might still be some being subjected to further inspection. My eyes filled with tears. I wondered for the 100th time again, if I had not pushed Kino to present a sham power to the Emperor, would any of this have happened? My heart filled with a leaden weight as I realized that perhaps, I already knew the answer.